I guess my mother was the person who motivated me. She was always talking about what happened here and there and so forth. And I guess her grandfather did a lot to make her be curious about what was going on. She used to talk about he didn't have any education. He had not gone to school, but he always wanted them to read the newspaper to him. She used to say, "I'm going to move heaven and earth to get you to school, to college." So she had a cousin who lived in Opelousas, Louisiana, which was 5 miles from Washington, where we grew up in Washington, Louisiana. Well, not in the town, but out of the town. And the cousin had graduated from Grambling, and so she wanted to show us how to get there, because we had no idea as to where Grambling was, you know. So she taught us. She came and picked us up and took us to Grambling and introduced us to people here. And so then we got jobs, and I worked in the business office with W.E. McNeil, who was the business manager. I tried to get a job teaching social science because I became so interested in it while we were in school. I loved to hear the teachers talk about the stories, you know, the history stories and all of that. And so felt like I wanted to be a part of that. And so I got a degree in social science education. I got a job with my former boss, W.E. McNeil. Then after that, my husband and my mama pushed me to go get a master's. And Louisiana Tech had just opened up to become an integrated school. So I went to Louisiana Tech and got a degree in social science education at Tech. And then, of course, Mama kept saying, "Well, you need to go on and get your doctorate." And I said, that's too hard. She said, "Oh, no, it's not nearly as hard as picking cotton," which is what we were doing when we were at home, you know, in the field, because we lived on the farm and we had to pick cotton and pull corn and dig sweet potatoes and cook, do okra and all those things that you do on the farm. So I did that, and then so I gave in. I caved in and went to LSU, and I majored in social science education with a minor in history. While I was at LSU, I talked to my major professor about Grambling and all the things that were going on, and that there was no history of Grambling. And so my major professor says, "Well, why don't you write about it?" Because there was no history, written for Grambling. And then when Joseph B. Johnson became the president of Grambling, he was interested in having a history done. And so he came to me and told me that did I want to do it. And I said, well, he said, well, I'll lighten your load, and you can take some time and put it together, and then we'll, and I'll get you some help. So he did. He got, we had an attorney who was working with us doing the problems with race relations and so forth, and it was the consent decree. And so the consent decree became the chapter 9 in the book, because he brought in the attorney, and we talked. We spent hours talking about what the decree was, and how it affected Grambling and the black kids, and that kind of thing. And so, eventually, we put all that together and put it in the book. And then finally, in 1985, we had a history of Grambling State University. And so and of course I sent the document to LSU, and they wouldn't print it. I was able to get it published through, this was a publishing company that published information from people who were looking for a cause in education. So I did that. And then finally we got it published. Let's see, I started teaching as soon as I got back from school. And I taught the first phase of American history to just freshman students who were, and who had to have that course. And so I taught them, and I told them a lot about the life experiences and how things were, not just in the classroom, but and not just the literary stuff, but life and that kind of thing. The book that we were using was all about whites and not about blacks, except that they were slaves. And so what we did, we talked to the teachers, and we got together and wrote a segment to go in the book. The problem was that we didn't have anybody to publish it, so what we did was ask the publisher, how could we handle that? And so they said, well, we can shrink wrap it with our book, and then you can get paid for that, for your school, for your college. So we did that. We shrink wrapped it, and we went on and did that for the kids, so that they would have things. And each each teacher wrote a segment of, it wasn't an individual thing that I did, but the teachers wrote a segment of it, and we were able to put it together, and we were able to make some money with it. And we were able to send our students to conferences, and so that they traveled, because we had some money. And that's how we got that part covered. I was secretary of the Voters League, and we wanted to make sure that our people in this area got to vote, because we weren't voting. Well, if we were, we had to go to Ruston and vote. We wanted our own representation. Okay, so that's the thing. So what we did was that we sued the school board and the district so that we could have representation. And so as a result, Grambling got two, and they still have that. We had two persons in each category. We had this education, and then we had political. So you had the politics, and then you had the education. So we now have two people on the school board and two people who are on the police jury and whatever. And I served on the Democratic Executive Committee to make sure that voting was done right, and that kind of thing. I never really registered for any political office, but I was pushing always that, you know, we should have some effect on what's going on in our world where we are. And when I became head of the Department of History and Geography, that was unusual. But doing the, you know, the things that were going on, the school and the social aspect of it, it just seemed natural for me. So they, you know, they kept pushing me, and that I did eventually become head of the history department and geography department, and I also did. I taught some graduate courses in social science because we had a master's program, and I did some classes for them, and of course I could give my experiences in that vein of what's going on in the classroom. One thing, you have to have determination. You have to decide what you want to do. If you see a problem, then you have to see if you can fix it. Most of the things that I have done have been to make a statement about what should be happening. Well, I'm trying to get back into writing the additional history of the university, and remember the things that, you know, my mother said, you know, that you have to always be pushing, you know. And I think about all the things that she used to tell me when I was coming up, and I passed that on to some folk, some little folks that I know.